What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's your boy Rio Robinson, back with the latest and greatest on the Ramblin' with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about the Washington Commanders. Today is Friday, August 4th, and today is day 9 of Washington Commanders training camp. We had an injury scare, and it's been like the goddamn Royal Rumble in practice today, with all hell breaking loose on both sides of the ball as offensive coach Eric Bieniemy and the offensive unit is getting frustrated. The defense is absolutely dominating today, and they're getting into it. Sam Cosmi and Fedarian Mathis broke out the fisticuffs, throwing blows at each other. They're throwing bows and blows, and Chase Young's talking shit to third stringers. Terry McLaurin told Benjamin St. Juste to shut the fuck up and help your teammate up, and Eric Bieniemy is cussing out everybody on the offensive side of the ball. Things are going down out in Ashburn. These are the dog days of summer. There's no preseason game this week. Guys get frustrated. The defense wins almost every day of practice, as they should, because the continuity and the draft capital that's been put into that defense, they should win the majority of days in practice. But by far, they said today, it sounds like a resounding, today's been the worst day for the offense yet. Growing pains are to come. 23-year-old quarterback. First year offensive coordinator on his own. First year he got to flee the nest of Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. So, things are going to be a little rocky to start. That's why these practices with the Ravens coming up are so important, and these preseason games matter for the offense. For the defense, nah. But the most important thing coming out of Ashburn in practice today is that Emmanuel Forbes, our first round pick, cornerback 1, who was having a monstrous day, a couple pass deflections, and he was locking up Terry in 7-on-7s, came up gimpy, came up hobbling, limped to the sideline with an apparent leg injury. I believe it's in the quad, hamstring, groin area. Let's hope it's something slight like a thigh contusion, but the boy's legs are the size of tree twigs, so you got to take it seriously when you see that, especially because we don't want that injury bug plaguing Ashburn like it's plaguing the rest of the league right now. Jeff Okudah was carted off of practice at Atlanta Falcons practice today. We saw Jalen Ramsey. We saw Joe Burrow. We don't need that happening in Ashburn. David Bada, depth piece, international defensive lineman, tore his triceps. He's going to miss the season. We don't need any more of that in our locker room right now. So it's definitely alarming and raised my eyebrows and got me a little tense when I seen that Forbes was out with an ice pack tied around his thigh watching the rest of practice. But let's hope we get good news on that front. It's something slight like a thigh contusion. To be perfectly honest, he sounds every bit as advertised and he looks the part. That's cornerback 1. Put him on ice until Arizona gets here on September 10th. We don't need to see him in a preseason game. He'll be ready. And if you think our offense has been a work in progress here, you just see the clips coming out of Arizona. They look like a high school football team right now. But things got so heated today. Nick Gates, who seems to be the team's apparent hothead, well, we saw the clips of him trying to fight Aaron Donald. He's really about that smoke, and he gets reckless sometimes. He spiked the ball at a defensive lineman for jumping offside. Eric Bieniemy said, "Get the fuck off my field. We don't got time for that shit." At least on 3 occasions, I could count the media saying today that Eric Bieniemy said, "We do not have time for that dumb shit. Y'all need to get to work." Benjamin St. Juste laid a blow on Cole Turner in 11-on-11s and stood over him, flexing, and looked down at him and didn't help him up. And Terry McLaurin ran over to his defense and said, "That's your fucking teammate. You can't do that shit." And when EB said, "We don't got time for it, stop talking," Terry immediately retorted, "Nah, that's his teammate. He can't do that shit." You love to see that energy, that charisma, that leadership coming from our captain, Terry McLaurin. The guy's just a coach's dream. He's a coach's dream come true. He's a football coach's wet dream in a player. No homos, pardon the phrasing, but he is that, bro. If you saw his interview on the Pivot podcast the other day with Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, Channing Crowder, you can see why we love this guy and why this guy's going to be a Washington lifer through and through, and he'll have a career here if he wants one post-football, because the guy is just everything you could imagine in a player. But the offense is struggling. The line, quarterback, the receiver, they're just getting clamped today by a dominant unit. Worst day of camp so far, but things will progress. We will get a litmus test next week when we go to Cleveland, who we watched in the Hall of Fame game last night. Dorian Thompson-Robinson looks cool. When Kellen Mond's in the game, I expect our defense to absolutely feast on that guy, even the backups. But I imagine the starters are going to play at least a quarter because we're not in position working in a new system and a new quarterback to not play starters in the preseason. So I think they're going to get their beaks wet a little bit next Friday. But to conclude this week of training camp, they put the pads back on today. Dudes was chirping. Dudes was ready to throw blows. And EB is about to blow a goddamn gasket on this team right now as the defense absolutely obliterates the offense in practice. Let's see a bounce back day. Let's hope we hear about a bounce back day this weekend. It's the dog days of summer. Don't get too high or too low about what you hear happening in practice. The only concern that I really have about what I read and heard about practice today is the Emmanuel Forbes thing. So that is something to monitor because the health of our first round pick who's supposed to take our defense to the next level, we need that to be okay. We need him on ice and ready to go September 10th, week 1, when Clayton Tune or Colt McCoy and the Cardinals come to town. That's all I got for right now. Checking in from this week of training camp. I'm excited. Football is back, and our Commanders are getting chippy. The testosterone levels are getting too high in Ashburn. Let's pipe that down and put that on versus another team next week when we go up to Cleveland. That's all I got for right now. Hail to the Washington Commanders. Out.